Hello everybody, welcome to Sunday School. This is Miss Marianne. I hope you guys are all doing really well and finding some cool things to do. We are continuing our unit on the Old Testament, which can also be called the Hebrew Bible. And these stories are very old, ancient even. And the stories we're doing are stories that Jesus would have grown up with, things he would have heard if he had gone to Sunday school. And this story is called The Great Family. And Abraham and Sarah are called the Great Family because people of the Jewish faith, the Christian faith, and the Muslim faith all trace their origins to Abraham and Sarah. So most of the world's people have this story as part of their faith tradition. Isn't that amazing to think about? It's a very good story. So I hope that you will enjoy it today. So before we get to that, let's light our candle and do our opening prayer. Go. And let's just take a second to take a deep breath before we get going. Dear loving God, thank you for these ancient stories that bind us together and for all the ways that we can know you and learn about you. Amen. I'll put that back here. My little altar back there. So this story is very old, and so many artists have created many different ways to think about this story. And so I'm going to be showing you picture pages as I go along, and I may show you a couple different versions of how to think about the same events so that you can think of how you would imagine this story. There's lots of different ways to do it. So this version is called God's Friend. Abraham and Sarah were rich. They had lots of servants to do their work for them, lots of camels and sheep, and they lived in a very nice place called Haran. Abraham believed in one God, and Abraham walked with God. And one day, God spoke to Abraham. I want you to leave Haran, God said, because I have a better place for you to live in. Now, Abraham might have said something like, where? Or how far? Or thank you very much, but I am happy here. But Abraham didn't say any of those things. In fact, Abraham said nothing at all. He and Sarah just gathered up their belongings, their servants and their camels and their sheep, and they went where God led them. They became immigrants. And life as an immigrant is hard. And why did they move? Because Abraham and Sarah trusted God. It was as simple as that. The people at that time believed that gods were tied to a place. And so when Abraham and Sarah left Haran, they couldn't even be sure that God would go with them. But wherever they went, God was there. It took them a long time, and they stopped in a few places. But Canaan was the name of the place where God led them. And it was a beautiful place. A place flowing with milk and honey is what some people called it. And that means that it was a place where there were lots of cows and goats and bees and plenty of flowers and grass for the animals to eat. It was a very pretty place. And Abraham and Sarah liked it very much. And soon it felt like home. The only problem was that Abraham and Sarah had no children. And they had traveled so much that they had become very old. too old to expect to have children. One night, Abraham was walking with God, and God said to him, "Abraham, look up. Do you see the stars? One day you will have more children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren than all the stars in the sky." And then God said, "Abraham, look down. Do you see the sand below your feet? One day there will be more members of your family than there are grains of sand on the earth." And what did Abraham do? He laughed. He cackled. He chortled. He might have even giggled. Me and Sarah have children? We're much too old. You will indeed have a son, God said, and through your family, I will do amazing things for the world. A while later, 3 strangers came to Abraham. And Abraham and Sarah were very kind to them. Abraham washed their feet, which was the polite thing to do in those times. And Sarah fixed a special meal with all the best things that she could make, including fresh baked bread, and she made a lot of it, and it was delicious. And as the visitors were patting their tummies and wiping their mouths, they said, "We will come back next year, and when we return, Sarah will have given birth to a son." Someone giggled. Someone chuckled. Someone laughed. But it wasn't Abraham this time. It was Sarah. But the next year, God's promise had come true. And a baby boy was born. And there was laughter again. So much laughter, in fact, that Abraham and Sarah named their baby boy Isaac, which meant laughter in their language. In time, Isaac grew up and became a man and had children, and those children had children, and those children had children, and those children had children, until one day your grandparents were born, and then your parents, and then you. And we are all a part of this great family, which has become as many as there are stars in the sky and grains of sand in the desert. We are all part of Abraham and Sarah's great family, and proof that God's promises come true. I wonder what you think about the story. I wonder if anything surprised you in this story. I wonder which part of the story you like best. I wonder which part you think may be the most important. There's lots of different parts to this story. I wonder what it felt like to move away from their home, to go to a place where they had never been before. I wonder if you would follow God if God told you to move to a place that you had never been before. I wonder if you think that would be hard. I wonder how Abraham and Sarah felt when they were told that they would have a child. I wonder what it would be like to be named Laughter or Giggle We don't talk about it in this version of the story, but in the Bible, originally, Abraham was named Abram and Sarah was named Sarai. And during the story, God changes their name to Abraham, which means father of multitudes, and Sarah, which means mother. And I wonder what it would be like to have your name changed like that, to be told by God. I wonder if you changed your name, what you would change it to. Or would you want to keep your name the way it is? I wonder. I wonder where you would be if you were in this story. Or if there is a part of this story that is especially for you. And I wonder what you are going to do this week. I hope you find something fun. Let us bring back our candle. And I'm going to get my prayer card. And let us do our closing prayer. Loving God, thank you for the times that bring us close to you and to one another. Help us to remember that you are always with us. Amen. And I will change this light so that the light of Christ can be with you wherever you go and wherever you are. This light will find you and be there when you need it. Blessings to you. Take care, everybody.